Hi, my name's Tara, and I'm so beautiful.
I love you.
I love you more? Question mark? Oh, I can't, can I?
Yeah. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Today is a very special video because not only are we putting up a video on Saturday, but I am here with Matt, my husband. We are doing a video on what it's like to care for a person who has mental and chronic illness. And this is from Matt's perspective. So he's going to be sharing with you guys what it's like to take care of me. So
let's get this real straight, okay?
So I don't have any questions prepared for him. I figured he would just share his side of the story from beginning to end of what it's like to truly care for somebody who has mental and chronic illness. A little bit about me. I have schizoaffective disorder. I was diagnosed in January of 2017. Schizoaffective disorder is a combination of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. I also have PTSD. So he has been through my bipolar mania highs and lows, and he's also been there through my hallucinations. He's been through my seizures. Yeah, he has been through a lot with me, and I'm kind of a complex case. He's driven me to doctor's appointments, but anyways, I think I will just let him take over and share from his perspective, because there's a lot. There's definitely a lot to go over from various medications that I've been on. I've been on so many different medications. Yeah, just my highs and my lows alone is a lot. Over the past 3 years, from going to doctor, seeing different specialists, because at first we didn't know what was wrong with me, and so we were bouncing around from different doctors. And yeah, anyways, I think he should go ahead and share his side of the story, because that's what you guys are here for. You guys clicked on this video to hear his side of the story, so why don't you go ahead and tell them your side of the story?
Okay, so let's see. Oh man, from the beginning. Let's go with the beginning. So it started in 2014, a month, right? After we were married. So a month after we were married.
Which was when?
October. There we go.
We got married in September of 2014, yeah. September 20th, 2014. And so it was actually just a couple of weeks after we were married.
Yeah. It was real quick. And you know, I'll get back to that, but basically there's a lot of understanding that eventually happened.
So basically I crashed.
Yeah. A month after we were married, she crashed, essentially. She goes from being this super energetic, you know, what's the word I would use?
Bubbly.
Bubbly. I was going to say fluffy for some reason. Bubbly.
Fluffy.
Fluffy. You're a bit fluffy. No, bubbly personality that, you know, just really attracted me to her, to all of a sudden just crash, and she lost all of her energy. Her drive was suddenly gone. She was experiencing just like, she was so ridiculously tired all the time. That's the main thing I take away from that time period, was she just, it's like being awake for days and days and days on end, and then all of a sudden you are able to relax, and you suddenly crash and you start to rest.
Which is true. I was actually awake for days and days and days, and I didn't sleep. I had insomnia, and I would stay up all through the night, and then I would stay awake all through the day. 16-hour
days at least.
I wound up staying awake all night, and then I would just crash on the couch for 16 hours a day. I wouldn't actually sleep, but I would just rest on the couch for 16 hours a day.
Yeah, and at first, you know, you don't know what's wrong, and you start thinking, okay, well, is this something that I've done? Is this my fault? And somehow, I know it sounds irrational, but, you know, you start wanting to blame yourself for what has happened to your significant other, the person you care about, and you feel, frankly, at this point, I remember feeling like really helpless as to like, what's the problem? You know, us guys, we want to fix everything, and I saw her having this problem, and I just didn't know exactly where to go to find the answers for that. thankfully, I have a fairly good background in the medical field. Like, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I have extensive background, you know, like, for example, I helped my son Vincent, our son Vincent, go through chemotherapy, and I've helped my mom recover from surgeries before, and I've experienced surgeries and stuff like that. So, you know, mental and physical pain is just something that, that's a reality in the 21st century. So she crashed, and I didn't know what was going on, but how long did that go on for? Like 6 months, 5 months? It was a long time where you were on the couch sleeping
like
a
year.
lot. A year, right? And did we go to the hospital? I think we did.
We were seeing the doctor, and
Right,
the doctor
that's right.
put me on gabapentin because of my migraines at the time.
Right.
And we weren't getting any answers, and so I was seeing a physiatrist at the time as well.
Right.
The physiatrist is somebody who specializes in, the skeleton.
Yeah.
So I was seeing a physiatrist at the time as well, and the physiatrist specializes in basically the skeleton, the bones of the body, and they couldn't find any answers as to what was wrong with me. And at this time, we were still trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I was in a car accident in 2014, and so this was in 2015 that we were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And so we thought I was still sick from the car accident.
Right.
And so they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me, but the doctors couldn't find answers. And so I was depressed. Now that I look back, I can say that I was depressed. I was really sick. I was nauseous. I was losing weight, significantly losing weight. I had lost a total of 117 pounds in less than a year. And mind you, I've gained a little bit of that back, a bit of that back. But
Whatever.
It's true. It's really true. But yeah, I was really sick at the time, and we couldn't find any answers, and so I wound up losing one of my doctors, which was a blessing in disguise, and then I wound up getting a really crappy doctor after that, and the doctor still couldn't find answers for me. She was just shoving medication down my throat, and at this time I didn't have a psychiatrist, and I didn't have the doctor that I currently have now, and so yeah, anyways, why don't you keep going?
So again, from my perspective, she was always like, you know, we were both questioning what was going on, and it came to a point where I gave her, I think, like the turning point advice. Remember when you were like, oh man, I don't know what to do, da da da, and I said to her, honey, you just need to take control of your health and pursue your health.
It's true. I remember that. And that's when I did take control of my health. There was a point where I had been sick at this point for nearly 2 years at this point, and it was at the end of 2016 when I realized something clicked inside of me after he said this, and I wasn't getting any better, and I realized if I haven't been healed physically in my body, then something must be wrong with me mentally. If the doctors haven't found answers as to what's wrong with me physically, then it must be mental illness. And so that's when I knew I needed to seek out services for mental health. And I did a bunch of research. I found, I went to the Deschutes County Behavioral Health, which is just the local county level, like, mental health services, and unfortunately they're not as advanced as the people that I'm working with now, and so I wound up reaching out to them, and I got a misdiagnosis right off the bat, and I was furious because I knew immediately when they diagnosed me. They first diagnosed me with obsessive compulsive disorder, and I knew that was wrong. I knew in my gut that that was wrong. Now, mind you, I do have obsessive compulsive personality disorder. That is something that I do have and that I'm working with. working with my psychiatrist on. So I do work with medical professionals for that, but I don't have, there is a clear difference between OCD and OCPD. It's two totally different related disorders. So when they gave me that diagnosis, I knew they were wrong. And so I actually went a step further than them, and I started seeking out mental health services beyond them. And now we are here where we're at today. I have the best primary care doctor that I have. I have the best psychiatrist that I have. I now have a really great therapist. And so I took control of my health just as he had asked. And I finally have a great team of doctors that I'm working with.
Well, and you know, what you kind of neglected to mention was how she took control of her health. Was she researched and researched and researched. I've never seen someone I mean, it was like she was trying to get her PhD in whatever, you know, schizoaffective disorder or whatever. She did so much research. I've never seen so much research done. I mean, hours, weeks, no, months.
When I went
right?
into my psychiatrist, I walked in with 4 pages back and front with everything that I was suffering with.
Yeah.
I hate to use that word suffer, but at the time I was truly suffering with what was wrong with me. And I went in with 4 pages front to cover, and I said, this is what is wrong with me. I need help. And he was able to confirm with everything that I was suffering with. He was able to confirm that yes, this is exactly schizoaffective disorder. So I wasn't crazy. It wasn't all in my head.
No.
I was truly suffering, and I needed help. At that time, I was really, really sick. I had lost 117 pounds. At this point, it was 120 pounds. I was nauseous every day. I couldn't eat. I didn't have an appetite. What is it like for you, for me to take pills?
Well, I mean, you want your wife or significant other to basically be healthy. And so for me to see you take pills sometimes, not always, it's kind of like, you know, I've used this metaphor before, but it's kind of like she's, how do I put this? She's like chained to the medications in a way. But considering what you're like off of the medications versus being on them, right? And all the side effects and all that the benefits far outweigh the negatives, you know, because like you don't hear voices as far as I'm aware.
Right.
You don't hear things anymore like you used to. I mean, we're talking like demons would come to her, and you know, she would see things on the corner of her eye. And
I would see shadows.
Yeah, shadows.
I would see like,
and you'd hear
I would have crazy hallucinations. And I won't go into those hallucinations in this video because they're just not appropriate for this video. But like I remember seeing the craziest things even while on medication. I was on antipsychotic medication and I was still having hallucinations, and that's how you know the medication isn't working.
Right. And so for me, like now, I've come to accept it, and you know, I look forward to the day, if possible, that you're no longer on any medications, if that's possible.
Yeah.
If it's not possible, then so be it. But because ultimately it all boils down to the quality of life, right? What is your quality of life before the pills and during the pills, right? Like, you know, yeah, you've mentioned weight gain, but short of that, and I think maybe some others that I'm not aware of, or I can't remember. But short of that, I mean, the positives are crazy, because like you and I, when I didn't know what was going on, and I was kind of bitter about the whole thing, and kind of angry, I guess. I was angry at God, and I was angry at myself, and I was angry at her a little bit, unfortunately. But you know, because like I know this sounds super selfish, and it's true, but here I was, you know, because I'm not going to ever divorce her, and I love her, and I want to be with her, and I just, you know, she was, at the time, she was in her 20s, And here to see her completely decline like this is scary. And I look forward to the time where we could travel the world, and now it's like traveling the world, but gotta make sure we have enough medication, you know, that kind of thing. And these things kind of go through my head. They don't go through my head now, by the way.
Okay.
And these things went through my head, and so it's one of those things where we would have huge arguments, like hour-long arguments.
Yeah, like longer than that.
Okay, I'm lowballing. It's true. So at an average, at a minimum, would be an hour long. Now, granted, that's because I'm stubborn and I'm very thick-headed, but also because I was trying to learn how she communicates. Because she communicates different than most women do, and also just most people do. And that's good. That's a good thing. But now I understand how you communicate. I know you know how I communicate, right? And we just keep that line of communication open. She'll tell me periodically, oh, I have a migraine, or, you know, oh, I forgot to take my medication, or something like this. And it's good to be like in that vein where it's like, oh, okay, take your medication. Or I'll remind her sometimes, have you taken your medication, and stuff like that. Because not that I'm trying to nag her, and not that she's trying to complain endlessly to me, but we're just trying to keep that line of communication open always.
Yeah.
Always. Because that's why I was so angry and bitter, was just because I didn't know, you know, ignorance is bliss, right? Until after you start learning like what's going on, and you're like, oh my goodness, she has a form of schizophrenia. Do you know how rare that is?
How did it feel when you first heard about my diagnosis?
Actually, you diagnosed yourself first. So through those hours and weeks and months of research that I was telling you about earlier, she preliminary did the preliminary diagnosis on herself.
And a lot of people might feel weird about that, because
I know I did.
Because then it's almost like I took these symptoms that I heard of and I like made it up, and I gave myself this diagnosis. That wasn't it at all. I had lived with these symptoms for years, and I was so scared and sad and afraid and just overwhelmed, and I was sick of being sick. And when you're being pushed away by medical professional after medical professional, and they're telling you that this isn't what's wrong with you, and you know they're telling you that they can't find a diagnosis, and you go to mental health services and they give you a completely false diagnosis. I knew that when I started researching schizophrenia, I knew that wasn't right either, if this makes sense at all. I knew that there was something more. When I was researching schizophrenia, that sounded right. I knew that was right. So I knew that there was just something more, that there was something more to it. I didn't really research bipolar disorder because I didn't really understand bipolar disorder. I didn't think that's what I had until I found schizoaffective disorder. And so when I found schizoaffective disorder, I knew that that's what I had. I found all of the symptoms and everything that related to schizoaffective disorder, and so I researched all of these videos, I mean hundreds of videos that related to schizoaffective disorder. I did not WebMD this. I don't encourage anybody to self-diagnose. I really don't encourage people to do this, because you really have to know what you're looking for. I don't want to offend anybody when I say this, because I'm not trying to give myself airs, but it really takes knowledge, and it takes wisdom, it takes discernment, it takes a certain level of intelligence to know exactly what you're looking for when you are making an assumption of what you have. I work very closely with a psychiatrist. I work very closely with a therapist. My psychiatrist knows me very, very well, and so let me explain. When I found this diagnosis for schizoaffective disorder, the therapist that I had at the time was already diagnosing me with schizophrenia. And so when I called her, I said, I think I have schizoaffective disorder. And she said, we're looking at schizophrenia, so I want you to call Brian Hagen, which is my psychiatrist that I have currently. And so I had my first appointment with Brian Hagen, and he diagnosed me with schizoaffective disorder. So my therapist that I had at the time and my psychiatrist were on the same page as far as schizophrenia. And so it was just a matter of time then when they gave me the diagnosis for schizoaffective disorder. So that is where I'm coming from when Matt says that I diagnosed myself with schizoaffective disorder. I did hours and hours and hours of research. All of those weeks that I spent researching for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder and schizoaffective disorder, I spent hours and hours and hours. That's all that I did, was research this condition.
There we go. Hi, beautiful.
Hi, honey.
So once she got the diagnosis, things went a little easier, but still there's still a lot of unknown going on, and all the while I'm asking the Lord, like, you know, please heal her, please help her, please, please, please. And man, this went on since the very beginning of when we got married to, I mean, well, I still do it. But just because the Lord doesn't answer your prayers in the way that you expect them to be answered does not mean that He's not working. So through this whole process, you've learned more about yourself. We've grown closer. I've learned how to kind of soften my heart to not be so hard-hearted. So I'm more empathetic to her needs and her desires. And that's not to say that it's all about her. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that I had to be more susceptible, more open to her feelings and her wants and desires. And that's something that at the time didn't come really naturally to me. You know, and so that was something that was a byproduct of her getting sick, is that we as a couple have grown so close. Mm-hmm. So close because of this, and in fact, so close in fact is that, you know, I'm working right now, and I think about her almost, I'd say at least once an hour, at least, and all the while she's doing the same, probably not, if not more.
I know.
Yeah, and you know, we're looking forward to the time when we can be reunited. And so I can be her caregiver again, and things can, you know, me going back to school, and then finishing the call that God's placed on our lives, basically. Yeah. Because this whole thing my calling has affected not just me, but my entire family. And so, and it just feels right when we're together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And like, we get along so well, it's crazy. And that was not always the case, where, to be brutally honest, I wanted my space.
Yeah,
at first. At first I did. I wanted my space because I was so used to being single and alone that I didn't like it when she would intrude on my aloneness or my alone time. And now I can't see myself away from her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you pray a lot, and your prayers are working, because with having schizoaffective disorder, a large part of that is, you know, chronic anxiety, chronic depression, and I have PTSD, which is something that I work through therapy, and I struggle a lot with, you know, the hallucinations and the hearing voices, and I know that a lot of what I am working with is the medication, but I don't deal with, you know, the chronic depression anymore, the chronic anxiety, and I don't hear the voices. And so if you look at where I was at a year ago to where I'm at now, I'm so much better. My personality is back. You know, the Lord works in so many ways, and I feel like even through medication the Lord is working. And so I think, you know, even through your prayers, he hears your prayers, and I am doing so much better than I was before. My schizoaffective disorder is being managed, and so I am back to some extent.
Yeah.
And so
no, honey, no, you're back.
So
in fact, I think you're better than you were when I first met you.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You know, you've matured, you've grown up, this it's like a trial by fire.
Yeah.
You know, where you spend an entire year on the couch, and that gives you a lot of time to think and to kind of look back in your life, to look forward in your life, and just and that year that you were on the couch, you researched all of these things, and basically you were trying to find the answer to how do I get better?
Yeah.
And so that's what you did, and you took my advice and you ran with it, and that's so cool. You know?
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I listened to you.
Yeah. So my last bit of advice that I'd like to give people who are caregivers for their significant other, for a family member, or what have you, is just to keep pressing forward, to be patient, to kind of soften your heart to the other person's needs. And I know as a caregiver you're kind of required to do that anyway, but just understand that this is a season where they just have to rely heavily on you, or maybe not so heavily, but emotionally on you, and that you have to kind of be the rock, and you have to be that stability for the other person. Keep moving forward. Know that this is not all that life ever is going to be. That life will continue to move forward. That the person will eventually get better in some way. And that God is always there for you. And that all you have to do is reach out, cry out to the Lord. You know, you can read about that in the Psalms. The book of Psalms is amazing. I would read through Hebrews when she was going through the worst, and I would cry myself to sleep sometimes, and I would listen to Romans, or I'd listen to Hebrews, or I'd listen to some of the Psalms, and then fall asleep to that. And that is a great sense of comfort, to know that the Lord is there, that you're not alone, and that, you know, they have you to rely on. Some people don't have that. And so as a caregiver, it's a great responsibility, and it can feel overwhelming at times. So just know that Tara's here for you, I'm here for you, and that God is always there for you.
So thank you guys so much for watching. It was a joy having Matt here today. We are a family here, so I encourage you guys to subscribe to this channel and join this crazy family of terrorizers if you have not already. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I put out beauty related videos every single Friday. I put out mental health videos every single Sunday, and I live stream videos every single Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. If you guys have any questions for Matt, make sure to leave it in the comments below. I love you guys so much, and we will see you in our next video.
Like and subscribe.